For me, the Christmas story begins with a couple. Not Mary and Joseph, as you might think, but this couple, their names are Zechariah and Elizabeth. Their story is told in the first chapter of the Gospel of Luke, and it's a long narrative, longer than actually the birth of Jesus Christ. So Zechariah and Elizabeth are old. The Bible says they're blameless, uses that kind of word, like they're righteous. But they've always wanted to have a child, and they still don't have a child. They've offered up thousands of prayers, but now they've kind of given up praying. Zechariah, when the story is told, is going to work one day. He's a priest. And he's been chosen by rolling of dice, that's how they chose, to take on a special job that day and light candles, incense, that represented the prayers of the people being lifted up to God. So he's gone to do that, and the people are waiting outside to hear that their prayers have been lifted up. As he's going through the motions, and you get the sense that he's just, doing what he has to do, an angel appears beside the altar, and Zechariah freaks out. The angel says, very Christmassy words, "Do not be afraid." And then the next thing, "For God has heard your prayers, and God has heard Elizabeth's prayers, and you're going to have a child." And then the angel gives this big, long speech about how you'll have joy and gladness, but it's even better than that, because this child will wind up blessing the world and fit into God's whole plan of history, all that kind of stuff. And Zechariah, when the angel finishes, says, "How? I'm too old. Elizabeth is definitely too old. This kind of thing, it's not what happens." And the angel says, "I am Gabriel." First time we hear the angel Gabriel in the Christmas story, in the narrative. And then the angel says, "Behold, between now, right now, like this instant, until the child is born, the promise is fulfilled, you'll be unable to speak." In other words, the news that God has for you in answering your prayer is better than you could have imagined. And I don't know if it's punishment that Zechariah is unable to speak, or if it's gift that he'll be quiet before this promise that is better than he could ever imagine. But he goes outside to the people after this and is trying to tell them that their prayers have been heard. He has a line he's supposed to deliver, but he can't. He's literally just doing like charades, and the people are like, "What's going on with Zechariah?" And then he signals to them that their prayers have been heard. And then the story actually says, then he goes home, and in the way of things, Elizabeth conceives. And later on, she has a child. I've often thought, and would say sometimes in sermons, I wonder if Zechariah was a little more attractive to Elizabeth because he couldn't talk. But this story lived in the lives of a couple, and shows us that the hopeful theology, the hopeful gospel, is always bigger than we could have imagined, and that even when we're not sure of it, that God has heard our prayers.